Welcome to the EarthWorks podcast, where our team will share the jargon of carbon from many of our turf friends from the past 30 years.
Hi, everybody. Kevin Hicks with EarthWorks, and I'm kind of going into uncharted waters for myself here. I thought I'd have a new friend of mine on the podcast this week, Colin Engstrom. He's with YardGuard in basically the city you'd recognize as Bozeman, Montana, but he kind of covers an area around that part of that beautiful part of Montana. And Colin and I kind of connected just by chance. He had actually reached out to the office and was looking for some information on our products, and Lisa in our office referred me to him, and we got to talking, and I've had some pretty deep conversations since then. Colin, thanks for jumping on, and I know you just got back from a camping and climbing trip or hiking trip in Utah, so thanks for jumping on this morning, and hopefully we'll have a good conversation here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for all the long conversations and questions you've tolerated.
Yeah, you're definitely my kind of thinker. I mean, you get into the weeds on some stuff that I really kind of enjoy talking about. So, like I said, our conversations I think have been a little different than most, and especially in your field. And so I thought it'd be kind of fun to pick your brain a little bit and see if we appeal to a lot of golf guys and certainly some lawn care operators and sports turf people. And I've kind of lined up some questions that I think might help shed some light on what you do, but also maybe give a few ideas that might cross over into the rest of the turf world. So thanks again. So I want to start with kind of your background, your history. Who and what is YardGuard? Just kind of start with your background and how you've recently acquired this company, correct?
Yeah. So I grew up in Boston. I moved out. I studied finance. I thought I'd come ski in Bozeman for a winter and go back and get a real job, and never left. So,
which is how long?
10 years ago.
10 years ago. Well,
so,
there are definitely worse places to put down roots, right?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to leave once you live here.
Yeah, no kidding.
So I started a janitorial business, and we grew that for 4 years, and then sold that, and then ended up acquiring a owner-operator lawn care business. So it was one guy, and they had around 300 customers, one guy, one truck. And this will be our 4th season. So our first year we did 460K in revenue. Our next year we did 730, and last year we did 1.25, and this year our goal is to do $2 million.
And you've grown it from, you said, about 300 to a whole lot more accounts, right?
Starting this year we had 2,600 customers. That's
amazing. So you approached it more from a business standpoint than an agronomic standpoint, I assume. And why a lawn care business? What drew you to that?
Just like janitorial, it's recurring revenue. So recurring revenue is awesome. I mean, you can predict what you're doing. You have long-term customers. You have better value. And for this versus janitorial, like, this is fun. This is daytime. Like, we have an awesome team. Everyone here is fun to work with. It's a fun culture and a fun environment to be in. So, and you get seasonality. So,
yeah. So do you still maintain the janitorial company, or did you sell that?
I sold that business. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But the recurring revenue makes a lot of sense, and that's definitely so. And I'm going to jump around a little bit because I've got this marked down for later. But you mentioned the seasonality. You said you don't do snow removal, right?
No. We've had so much to figure out and build processes and operations for everything, and building trucks the last couple of years, that we haven't done any winter revenue.
Okay.
So we run from more or less April 1 to November 1st.
Okay.
And then we go skiing a lot, but we still work a lot in the winter.
Yeah.
And so we try to do more things in-house. Like, we wrap trucks ourselves in-house. We build them ourselves. Yeah. Which is awesome. And then it keeps guys busy. So as we, the idea is, if we can do it now, if it's going to be helpful when we're big, let's figure it out now.
Sure.
And so if we can be able to build all our stuff here, I think it's going to make things better. And it keeps guys busy. So rather than paying the wrap company 3-4 grand a truck, we can keep an employee busy doing it. So, and they come out pretty good.
And do you keep the same number on throughout the winter season, or you cut down to a core staff?
We cut down to a core staff. We more or less every year been able to keep the staff that didn't have seasonal jobs or wanted to stay. We've been able to keep everyone.
Okay.
And so we hope to keep that going. And that's this year we're going to add Christmas lights. So we hope to do a couple $100,000 in Christmas lights and keep more staff busy. Because we have such good people, you can't afford to lose them.
Yeah.
And so
I want to carve out some time to talk about that, because that, the labor thing is, I don't care what industry you're in, that's the number one challenge right now. And, to be in a very seasonal climate like yours and pull off what you've told me you've pulled off, I want to tap into some of the ideas that you've come up with to get that. So let's get back to that here. So the goals for your company, you said you want to get to 2 million in revenue this year. I mean, you kind of touched a little bit on maybe what's down the line, but short term, what are your goals? What would you like to see out of the company, and is this something you're going to stick with?
Yeah, so we have 3 goals this year. A revenue goal of $2 million. We have a goal to get 55% of our customers or more onto our blended organic program.
Mm-hmm.
So we started at 19% and we're at 28 right now, I think. And then for the season. And then our third goal is to have franchise ready SOPs and management systems, just to formalize all of our training and all our processes. So then it makes it easier to expand later. We have a lot of stuff and it's not formal yet. So we want to get that all formal and into software.
So as far as a franchise type of model, then you're thinking about doing that in the Montana region, or who knows?
I think we'd be more regional because I think you know what you're doing, and it's close enough that you could send someone out there if you had to,
Sure.
Or you can easily get there. And I don't think we'd franchise. I think we'd own locations. So it's like getting the staff groomed here so that we can go to Coeur d'Alene and open a location. I'm just making this up. And then you can look after it for us.
Right.
But then it's then you can expand. Because I think we've been able to grow so well because we have all these awesome people. And the limiting factor is going to be they need somewhere to grow to. And so if we can groom them up and then put them somewhere or help them move in the company, then everyone gets to win. So
well, and I think your approach is so different because you didn't start with a truck and trying to fill summertime or make some money to be able to ski in the winter. You approach it from a financial, a profitability sort of standpoint, which I think, I would guess besides the big guys, I would guess that a lot of these companies probably, including the one you acquired, probably started the other way and had to learn on the fly on the financial side of things.
Which is scary. Even having we have a financial model, and I have someone that helps us model this stuff. And so you can see I can forecast out all your stuff, but you still don't know what you're doing.
Right.
You're making best guesses and you get pretty close, but it's without enough information, it's scary. You're to buy things and not know what you're doing, you're just gambling.
So does it scare you then? Or did it scare you? I mean, you've obviously done a great job of educating yourself, but did it scare you to try to dive into the agronomic side of things when it really wasn't your background? Or was that part fairly easy to pick up?
I think it's a little overwhelming at first because there's so much information. It's hard to know what's right and wrong.
Right.
And I think it's also there's a lot of misinformation, and so it's hard because what we've been talking about, we're trying to do isn't really done in lawn care. It's done in regenerative farming, but it's not done in lawn care.
Yeah.
And so I spent the last winter we've been talking is just reading regenerative farming books and trying to learn how to do this, because it isn't. It's great. I can buy ammonium sulfate and I can make grass green, but that's not making things better long term. That's giving you a short term result. And so it's how can we make this?
And I hope I haven't been a Debbie Downer in some of our conversations. I mean, you had some pretty grand ideas when we first started talking about building a compost tea that you could get out on the road and treat your customers' lawns with it. And I think I kind of talked you out of that, at least in the short term, because it's while I think there's a lot of merit to that concept, it's a tough one to manage when you're sloshing around on the highway trying to get from customer A to customer B. And, that's a living product that's in the tank. How do we keep the integrity of that intact throughout the course of the day? And if there's still some left over, what do we do at the end of the day with it? And, you've definitely had some good ideas. And I think, like you said, with time, you'll figure out all these processes and get to the point where you can do that. But I hope I haven't taken the wind out of your sails with some of our conversations. Like, hey, just hold on a second. I don't know if you want to do that.
And that's the tough thing too, because the difference between like the customer calls us because they don't want weeds in their lawn. They don't call us because they want, a natural based lawn care program. They call because they want results.
Yeah.
And then when you tell them we have 2 programs, this is the one we're most excited about, everyone aligns with this one. But they didn't call for that. They call because they want results. So we can make your lawn look good now, but then be like fixing things for later.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest part, is like, how do you give them enough now to keep them holding on? Because there's companies out there that I think are awesome, that are like, we do this, and they have a natural way of doing it. But, it's hard to commit a customer to taking 5 years to make your lawn look good. And so you just can't do it. And so it's like, okay, if we can have, 70% organics and then working towards a better future, that's even better. Rather than like, people are going to fall off. You're not going to make enough of an impact if you have 200 customers that truly believe what you're doing.
Yeah. And there, that's not a new concept. I mean, that's been mirrored in the organic farming industry for a long time, where, if you buy a piece of ground and you want to convert it to organic, there's a 3-year conversion process that has to happen. And it's, like you said, time is not on your side when you're talking with a customer who wants results. And it's been, talking to Joel, my boss, that's been the biggest challenge, I think, for lawn care operators, is to try to get over that hump of establishing a system that's going to work long term, but still produce the results on the front end. So how do you present that to a customer that's, okay, I'm all in on this concept, but I still don't want weeds? Well, how, is it written? Is it communicated? And what's, I mean, obviously, if you're getting that percentage already, I mean, I think you told me at one time you wanted 25%, and now you're saying you want 50% of your business that offering. You must have a formula.
And I think he'll also buy your excitement. Like, if you're like, hey, this is the program I was excited about, the people do align with it. Everyone wants to use less chemicals. They want to have more natural stuff, but they also need results. And so as long as you can provide the results, they're all on board. They want it, and they're happy to pay a little premium for it, because it does cost more. It does take more time to do it. Yeah. But if we can do these things and figure it out, then it's like, it's not apples to apples. Like, no one else is doing this. I mean, there's tons of companies out there that say, we have an organic based lawn care program, but throwing some kelp in doesn't make it organic based. Sure. And so to me, that's the hard part. And like this winter, like we talked about, is we put 2 tanks and 2 hose reels in all our trucks. So one has our fertilizer in it, and then one has herbicide. So now we can spray the lawn or on liquid apps with fertilizer, and then go back and spot spray where weeds are, so we can truly keep herbicides to a minimum. And then talking to companies, like, oh, why don't you get these 2 trigger guns? So now we built 7 trucks this winter to have this set up on them, and now we might strip them all off over the July week and switch them back to something else. And you're like, great, that was a good use of $100,000.
So wait, back up. So what did you call that?
So they make gun? Yeah, they make 2 trigger guns. There's 2 hose in the line. They were popular when pre-emergents were super expensive in like the 90s, early 2000s, I believe. Okay. And no one really uses them anymore. So you have a 1/2-inch hose that inside it has a 1/4-inch hose. And so you now have a 3/8 hose basically, and you can run it that way. But, everything has drawbacks, but we're basically treating the lawn twice. When we're doing a granular application, we're going spot spraying weeds with liquid, or we're doing a liquid and spot spraying with liquid again. Like, that's just so much extra labor. And so if we could do a true trigger gun, we could get rid of this valving manifold in our trucks and simplify things. But I know there's negatives to everything. Like, if the pump goes out on it, you wouldn't know you're not getting herbicide in your second trigger until you notice it's not going down. And calibration's hard, and there's things that aren't great about it. But
Can you
I think
run,
it's going to simplify.
I'm unfamiliar with it. Can you run both of them at the same time?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a blending sort of a gun at the end of the day.
So yeah, so it's Venturi based. So you have your
Oh.
regular Lesco gun,
Yep.
and you're pulling it, and then there's a second trigger on it that would allow herbicide to come out, and it just Venturi's in.
Okay.
We haven't even used it yet. We're gonna go test it when we got off the phone today. I just bought some blue dye from Murdoch's, and we're gonna pour it in and see how. My concern is how much the lag. Like, is it 1/1000 or 2/1000, or like when's it mixing in, and how do you know?
Yeah.
So we're gonna go dump blue dye in the secondary tank and see how it works.
So that, that's another thing that I've noticed about you in our conversations is that, the concepts of setting up test plots and testing new systems like you're doing in this 2-trigger gun. It seems like a lot of people that I talk to in your line of work are just flying. They're just moving so fast they don't ever have time to say, "Gosh, is my program working?" How do you justify that?
It's hard because like this year we started 4 weeks late because there was snow on the ground.
Yeah.
And now we're 2 weeks behind, and it's like I'm gonna pull someone off of like helping with production to go help me mess around with this stupid gun thing today when we're already still behind. You're like, great. But if we don't do it, then we're gonna, then you're just gonna be like triggering. And
Right.
so it's like you can do it, but then you're not learning, you're not making anything better, you're not innovating. So like times are changing. And so
Right.
I'd rather be the one pushing the change than trying to catch up.
Well,
But it sucks. Like I bought that thing for $4,000 and we haven't even tried it out yet. And it might, if it works, now we wasted, tens of thousands of dollars on tanks we built this year that are now wrong. But if we don't try it or it doesn't work, then I wasted $4,000 on this thing.
right.
So
Well, but you're playing the long game too. I mean, you're like you said, you want to be an innovator, and your first answer was it sucks wasn't the one I was looking for. The second one was what I was actually looking for. So
and that's
you're
what
there,
makes it, yeah,
but
that's
it's
what makes it fun. Like I don't want to come to work doing the same thing over and over again every day, just knowing this is my life.
yeah,
Because you see people like that and they're all burnt out. They have no
right,
excitement. Like I
right,
can't hire anyone, I can't do this. And it's like I wouldn't work for you either if I came to work and everyone acted like this.
yeah,
Like we're all excited to be here, we're excited to learn. I think that's what makes it fun. Otherwise, you might as well go get a government job.
right, exactly. Okay, so let's go back to what I wanted to kind of touch on, and that's employees. You you've said time and time again, almost every conversation, you said it already this morning, that that you've got a great team, and you want to keep them around. And you've said something that I hear maybe 1 out of 50 times when I ask this question, but you said, "No, I'm not having much trouble finding people." um, Talk about it. I mean, obviously you're communicating with your team pretty well. I could tell that just in our discussions. But is it just pay? Is it quality of life? Is it what's the secret? Because I do not hear that very often from any sector of the turf care industry, that yeah, we're not having any issues with staffing. I mean, Bozeman,
And
for people that don't know your area, um, Bozeman is incredibly expensive to live in that area, which is why, same reason you've been able to get traction with an organic based program. People that are willing to pay for that, those are the people that live there. So having employees, it's pretty tough for them to keep their heads above water. So it can't just be pay. But what would you key in on as far as your secret to success?
I think I was fortunate to learn this from doing janitorial because when you're hiring nighttime, we had 30 something employees. You're hiring nighttime janitors. It's a hard job to hire for.
Yeah.
And so everything else was kind of like managed. My job was recruiting and hiring. And
Mhm.
so I think that's kind of like what I zoned in on. But, you know, to me, there's no secret. I mean, I'll show anyone what we do and I'm happy to share. It's like, I think it first starts with like, it's no different than selling a house. You want to have good photos, you want to make it look nice. So like, I think our ads are fun, but they also reflect our culture. And so you could take my ad, but if it doesn't reflect your culture, then it's not the same. But it's like we make ads that are fun.
Like like job posting type ads is what you're saying?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
how and what medium? do you use? Video?
Same as everyone else. We use Indeed and Craigslist.
But it's print.
And what?
It's print or video or both.
Just I guess just photos and text.
Okay.
And this thing that we need to make this a lot better. Like we've been working on this too, and like we're adding a HR software right now, and so then we can filter through them faster because we're getting like we get 100 ads in a week or 100 responses in a week, and you need to call the good ones back now. And so I want to be able to get through them. We want to be able to get our staff get through them faster. And so then getting a software is going to help that and help move them through. But the biggest thing is just casting a big net. Like I think people put an ad out and then go back to the bar and bitch about it. And it's like,
yeah,
we make it part of culture. Like, you know, we have meetings and we put the ad up in front of the staff and we all spend an hour going through like, how can we make this better? You know, what titles could we use to make this sound better? And so we post an ad. It was, we have one that's generic that says like, Yard Guard is hiring lawn care technicians, but we also have 15 other titles that are just random things. And so when you're scrolling through and you're bored looking for a job and you're like half looking, you're like, oh, that's funny. Let me click on that. Or that sounds interesting. And they're just random stuff. Like the CSR ad we had is like not the worst office job in town. Or do you hate working on powder days? Or just things that like catch your attention.
Right.
And obviously then it goes into it. But if you click on it, now we got a chance for you to engage with our ad. And so we try to post a bunch of them with a bunch of different titles. And something we need to do this year is we're getting video content because I want to have a careers page. I want you to be able to see what it's like to actually work here and what the job's like, what the staff are like, and get more video content for that. But we don't have it. And so we try to post photos on it, but we're getting better.
So you said something and you kind of brushed over it, but I think it's a really important thing that we sometimes miss in management of people, and that's the fact that you threw those ads up in front of your staff and said, how can we make this better? I mean, that kind of crowdsourcing mentality, I think, is really good because they're the ones that are doing the job. You know, I always said, I don't care if it's an hourly guy sitting on a mower. If you do that for 8 hours, you have to have a better idea of how to do the job. And same thing I think holds true with advertising and recruiting is, you know, what made you come here? How come you came back this year? What is it about what we offer that, you know, that keeps you here? That's a really good idea that I don't think a lot of people are implementing.
And that stuff's hard. And it was the same thing we came up with our mission or values. It's like we interviewed every staff. It's like, why do you work here? Why do you like working here? What's different? Or like what's important to you? It's like, because all that stuff takes forever and it's important to put down, but getting everyone's feedback is super helpful. And sometimes it gets jumbled. You have all these people in a room, but I think getting organized feedback is super helpful.
Yeah. Well, and you can distill it down to something that's, you know, that's applicable, I think, at that point.
Yeah. And then now you like the box is checked. Now we made this better and move it forward. And then next year we can revisit and make it even better again. But at least you're moving the needle forward. We also do $1,000 referral bonus.
That was going to be my other question, because you've got buy-in from your team. I would think that, you know, just like private country clubs will incentivize a member for bringing in one of his friends because they know they're not going to bring a schmuck in to a membership, and likewise with employees, I think.
And it's no different than like we spent $8,000 last year on ads.
Right.
For hire. So we hired 4 people. And so I paid $2,000 a head. Right. And so I go, okay, I think we can get more efficient with this. And this year I think we spent $4,000 or like $3,800 so far. And we're staffed. And so I think we got more efficient with it. I have a friend's recruiter, and I think we made our ads better with Indeed, but just okay, I can pay someone $1,000. I'd rather give it to them than give it to Indeed. Who cares about them? It's kind of like Google ads. I don't want to pay Google. I'd rather pay someone to door hang someone's kid to go out and put door hangers out than put money in their pocket, keep it in our community, than give it to Google.
Okay, so what's the what are the qualifications for the bonus?
So they have to go through. So the lead comes in. So they get $100 when they get hired, and then they get. I had it at 30 days. The staff told me to go to 60. So it's like, fine, you guys want to wait 60 days to get paid? Go right ahead. Because I don't want it to be like a shitty bonus that no one gets. It's like,
Yeah.
we're trying to give you this money. If you get through our 3-step interview process and we hire you, you're qualified to be here. After that, it's not the person's fault, you know?
Right.
And so in my mind, after 30 days, you're through training and now you're like productive for us. 60, you're really productive, but through 30 days, you're productive. And so that's why I was going to put the bonus after that to get them through training, but they wanted 60, so we did 60. So then you get your $900. So don't tell the IRS, but we give $100 bill on the first day because then everyone gets to see in the morning huddle that they got $100,
Right.
and everyone likes getting cash.
Wait a minute, I want some of that.
Exactly, and then so the 900 goes on their paycheck.
Yeah.
And I think I was talking to the bookkeeper, we're going to cut a check for them so they get a physical check because you don't notice stuff when it goes direct deposit.
Yeah.
And then we took our interviewing more serious too, which I think helps because every time we make our hiring process more serious, we just get better results. And because you're coming in being like, this is a professional workplace.
Right.
It's rather than like you meet someone at a coffee shop or you hire the first person, you stuff them out in the field. I think it's like we want to make it an experience. So you get Sydney does the first phone interview. And then if you're a technician, Stevens runs operations. So he would then interview them for more job related stuff. And then I'm kind of like the final say on culture. And so then I do the final interview. And so it might be like Sydney interviewed and was like, hey, this sounds great. And then we track this and we use Asana for project management. So we just drag them through. This will now go into Bamboo HR for HR software. But then we can track them through and there's a resume and comments on it. And then it moves to him and it says, hey, he was great, but ask more about this. I'm not sure if they're committed to the season or what they're going to do in the future. And then he can go through it, then he'll bump it to me, and then I go through it.
Okay, so you got to back up for me because I'm really slow on this stuff. So you kind of blew over that software, as you're going through the process. What was the name of it, and explain what that does in the process?
So we just use Asana as our just like in-house
Asana.
project management software.
Okay.
Similar, a lot of those things, ClickUp, or there's a million of them. It's a free software. You can do a paid one, but we just use it to manage our tasks and projects internally.
Okay.
So we have pages that we have our meeting structure in, but then in a project, you could then click on a task and assign it. So when we have meetings, we'll assign things with due dates. And then, for hiring, we just have a hiring tab, and then it has like, they call them boards. So it'll be like she only puts them in after they go through the first interview, and then she'll drag them to Steven for second interview, and then you can attach files. So now it has like it says second interview, and then it'll have the name, and if you click on it, it'll have comments and the resume and whatever information in there, and then he'll drag it to me, and then everyone can see each other's calendar. So they'll just set a time on my calendar when they're leaving, and then it's on my calendar, and I can go find it in Asana.
So are you typically hiring then for seasonal entry level people, or is it kind of across the board?
We want to groom everyone.
And is the process the same for no matter who you're hiring?
Yeah, and we want to groom everyone from within. And so Stephen, who runs operations, was a lawn tech. Sydney came on at the beginning as a CSR. She runs the office. And so we want to bring everyone up from within. I can see us for the next 10 years never bringing someone in from outside unless it was going to be like a specific corporate based position. Like if you're going to be an in-house accountant or something, or some kind of thing where you're not going to be a lawn tech first.
Yeah. Well, it goes back
I want
to
everyone
culture,
to come
right?
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then something else we've been working on that's just about done is we put in our ads now is we documented out how you can move up in the company and what you have to do it. So you come on, I'd say we pay in the middle. We have better benefits. We pay in the middle, I think, of the range for similar jobs. But we have a documented thing of like, okay, you come on at $22.50 an hour and you get full benefits, PTO, even our seasonal staff get PTO days. I think it's just fair. You just want to take care of people. Yeah. And so I think being fair is important. And so if we're all taking off Memorial Day, we should all get paid for it. We all worked hard. And so a seasonal staff comes on and gets some PTO days, but they're hired as full-time seasonal with the opportunity to become full-time year-round. And then so in our benefits, it has the benefits for full-time seasonal, full-time year-round, and then salaried staff, and then their benefits and paid time off. Everyone qualifies for benefits after 30 days, but we then spelled out okay, you come on at 2250 as a tech in training. When you can show these competencies and go to Tech 1, now you make Tech 1 is $23 to $25 an hour.
Okay.
And then you can grow in these competencies, and as you go up, your pay would increase. And then you can go to Tech 2, and then I think that is $25 to $27 an hour. And then from there, you can go over to be on-site sales. You could be a lead tech, like you're getting groomed to be into management, or you could be a master tech, someone who doesn't want to manage, but still has a ton of value to the company because they're out doing production, they're knowledgeable, and just because you don't want to manage people doesn't mean you don't have a ton of value. There's a place for you. And then from there it goes to, you could be a field manager, and then we show the salary ranges for everything. And so here is on paper what everything is, and it's in our ads now. And so now we have these competencies written out, and now what we need to do now is expand on those. Okay, you got to have a basic knowledge of tree ID. So now we're going to spell out, we are going through now and spelling out what trees need to know to graduate to a Tech 1.
Yeah.
And then those are all going to go into software for later. Now you want to go and help. And I think the big thing is changing it from like me telling you what to do to like coaching you on how to do what you want to do.
Sure.
And so then it's not me saying you did a bad job. It's like, you want to go, your goal is to go to here. Let me help you get to here.
So, you know, your 3-step process for hiring. I mean, if you're benefiting all of your employees after 30 days, if they're vested at that point, that's just another incentive for you to get it right the first time. I mean, that, you know, the cost of turnover we know is incredibly high, but then when you start getting those types of benefits involved on that short a term, but if he or she's a full-time seasonal, I mean, you kind of have to ramp it up fairly quickly too. So,
and like, I don't want to get employed somewhere and be like, oh, you can't have health insurance for 60 days.
Yeah.
And frankly, the thing says 30 days. If you come on you on health insurance, I'll just turn on it right now. We have to hire you last month, you know?
Yeah.
And so the whole thing's kind of just like, just want to take care of people. And so we want to make sure that you're on here and you're getting benefits, you're being taken care of.
So,
and if you got through our process and you were that good at lying to us and you weren't a performer, like, you're not going to last anyway, because the staff aren't going to want you here. Like, they don't want B players around.
Yeah.
So you're not going to fit in.
So justify then. I mean, I'm not putting you on the spot here, but you know, a lot of your competitors aren't offering those kind of benefits, right? I assume. So justify the extra cost. What's in it for you? And I know the answer, but I think it's something we've sorely missed, and you might have tapped into something that a lot of people could benefit from.
And I think it's all just like being fair. Like, I think if like we should just have it anyway, because it's what we should do.
Right.
But it's like, it all has a cost. So in your job offer letter, I have it spelling out saying, okay, you make $22.50 an hour, and then you get this many PTO days, and that is worth. We put things in an annual and an hourly rate, and so that's worth X amount of dollars, which is worth 60 cents an hour. Is your PTO days. Your health insurance is, we contribute $350 a month, which covers an average aged employee here 100%. And so on that costs me $2 and change an hour. You know, and then you're going, okay, our 401k benefit costs me $1 an hour. And so you can see, as day one employee, if you take our benefits, you make $27.50 an hour. But I think you should do all that because it's right. But I also think turnover is expensive. Yes. Having the wrong people is super expensive. You know, if you're having someone out there that you don't trust to do the job right, not even the cost of screwing it up, but just like the mental load in all your management's brain of being like, oh, is this person going to screw it up? Like, no, you don't get anything done. And so if you just have good people out there that you know are doing the right thing, and if they do something wrong, it's because it was a total mistake.
Right.
And they already talked to the customer and solved it. Like, I don't even have to know about it because it's already just taken care of.
And not unlike
it's
golf.
What?
Not unlike golf, they're rolling out with equipment that could be $100,000 plus. And the difference being, you're on the road with potentially hazardous materials, so there's even more at stake, I think. But
and then they want to fix it because they want to do the right thing, because we're all do the right thing. You know, I had a staff last week that was training that hit someone's plant, And then we had a training day on Friday. We were doing production, and they went out after that. We did a half day. We all had lunch together, and they went out and they got a new plant from the store and replanted it. And then we gave the customer a gift card and apologized for what happened. But they wanted to go fix it.
Right.
I didn't have to go make them
That's
go fix
awesome.
it. And so it's like that's a difference.
Yeah.
And that's worth all of it, you know.
So you run how many employees total?
We have in management, we have me, Steven runs the technician, Sydney runs the office, and Tate just graduated. He worked for us last year. He's our field manager now. And then on under that, we'd have in CSRs, we have 3 CSRs on the phones.
Okay.
And then technicians. Riley also manages their shop. So he's in charge of equipment and maintaining stuff, but he also does production. And then I believe we have 9 other technicians.
Okay.
One's coming on this Friday, so we'll have 9.
So all of those folks are running their own rigs in the field, or
Yeah,
more or less. Do they have somebody with them, or is it just a one man?
they all run independently,
Okay.
which is why you need to have, like, in our business, like, everyone's their own form. No, it's not like you're on a crew and you're planting trees and one guy's telling you what to do.
Yeah.
You don't have to know what you're doing. Like, you got to know what you're doing.
Okay.
So
I like that. No, I love the I love the fact that you're itemizing and putting a value on each of those benefits. I think that's a really important thing, not only for the employee to realize. You know, I've got a son that signed on with Costco out of high school. He's married now, and you know, same deal. They were vested with the 401k. They were vested with the health benefits, and of course, he's 18 years old, so he doesn't know the value of it. And I said,
it's huge.
you know, you can't quit this job until you've got a better one, because you have no idea the benefits and the value of that. I saw, you probably know Knife River, the big EarthWorks company. I saw an ad at one of their local facilities here, earn up to $3.5 million. It was on a big banner on one of their fences on their yard. And I thought, now that caught my eye. And then, you know, in the finer print, it was, you know, based on working for us for 25 years or whatever it was. But I thought, you know, just a hook, just something to catch their eye and look a little bit different. But I think some of the stuff you're doing with advertising makes a ton of sense, because you got to separate yourself. I mean, you know, I would assume that being a college town, you're probably trying to draw some kids that are coming off the slopes, and no, you want career people.
Well, it's tough. The college season's so short.
It is.
You know, like, we need them from April 1st to November 1st, and now we're doing lights, and now we need them through into the winter. So it's like, that's tough. You can work at the ski hill. We have a couple staff that that have winter jobs.
Yeah.
Because then you're kind of, you know, early December to April 1st, and that works for us. But the college thing's tough.
It's the same hamster wheel golf guys get into. They just, and they can't get off of it. They've got to fill the ranks, but it just ends up to be such a vicious cycle, and they can't ever get their head above water, because the turnover is so quick with any student, whether it's high school or college.
Yeah, and your staff or your advertisers, they talk to your customers every day. So if you have happy customers, then that solves all problems.
That's a great point too.
You know, like, we go to these conferences and go visit the companies. They all talk about callbacks. And for a while, I was like, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
And so we may have had 5 times last year. I don't even think we had 5. We went back and spot sprayed a weed for someone. And it's like, if it was an area we didn't know we were supposed to do, or it's just like an honest mistake, or just something, or someone who found a weed that we didn't get. But it's like, I think by just having people to just take care of it means you don't have those issues. And going back is expensive.
Tough concept, isn't it? Really, really.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into the operation a little bit. You mentioned already that you'd like to get upwards of 50% of your clients on some organic based program. What in the description of your offering, what does that mean to a customer? What's an organic based, and how do we get around the weed control, you know, without divulging some of the things that we've talked about that you're working on? How do we get around the weed control piece? Because that's the toughest hurdle when you're trying to offer something like this. And what all does that include? Is there a mix of synthetic and organic? And, you know, how do you tackle that?
Exactly, and that's where we use a mix. With the idea being, with what we've talked about is, we do a granular spring and fall. It's cold here. We don't want to run pumps in the spring and fall because we get freezing temperatures. Just makes our production easier.
Yep.
And it's nicer to put down a higher load of organic. So what we've talked about is spring and fall granulars. We do 5 applications. So first and fifth, we're putting down a high load of organic material. And then if you're on a smaller property, you're getting 3 liquids. And during the 3 liquid applications, same thing, a blend of synthetics, mostly soil release nitrogen, and then organics. And then you're getting spot weed control. And so we have a tank, we have a pump, we have the ability to use as much as we need to, but we're trying to keep it to a minimum. Because I really don't think herbicide is good for the grass either. Right. And so we want to keep this to a minimum. We also don't want to spray anything when we have to. I think it's so easy to grab nitrogen and herbicides, and then you don't create long-term results. And so it's like, it might be a little more annoying to go spot spray a property. But if we can make it more efficient and make it easy, then it makes the staff want to go do it. And so we changed our backpacks this year to be more comfortable, and we're trying to get that 2 tank system or that 2 trigger system so we can make it so it's easier and they want to do it. So if they want to do it, then it gets done. And so the idea being you get 70% organics, and then you get herbicide kept to a minimum. And so we want to keep it to a minimum, but you get a new customer and they're calling because they had a lawn full of weeds. And so they're going to have to get broadcast once. And then the next time they're probably just going to be hitting the areas that have weeds. And then after that, it's just sidewalks and cracks and areas that get hot or dry or don't have good soil. And so you're hoping to build that up over time.
Do pre-emergence fit in that program at all?
We don't have crabgrass.
Except along.
So we have it easy.
Except
we don't have grubs.
Right.
No, not even the sidewalks. No.
It's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming.
It's getting hotter here.
When I first moved to Coeur d'Alene, we barely had any crabgrass. And now, first you saw it along the edges of the sidewalks, and then all of a sudden it's like, crap, how did that get there? And it's all over the place. So
and the summers keep getting hotter and hotter. So it's
yeah.
I'm sure we're going to have it. We don't currently have it. We don't have grub issues. Most of our issues we have it easy for more or less. Our hard thing is it's cold here and we don't have a lot of season.
Yep.
And so, but in terms of turf issues, we have it pretty easy. And so we're also doing, I know we're talking about compost. We are doing an additional upsell as a compost tea application.
Okay.
And so what's cool is we bought a compost extractor. I'm getting some local compost from a guy that picks it up from local properties around town.
Yep.
And so we're going to test it out and see how the biology works out. But our plan is to do a compost and worm casting mix.
Okay.
And so it'll be an extract. It won't be a tea. Because then we can have it in the tanks longer. So it'll come out of the shop that day, cool. And then whatever comes back, we'll just donate somewhere or use it up out in the field. We want to come back with empty tanks.
Right.
But what we're going to do is put it in our tree trucks, which have never had herbicide in them. So then what's cool is we're going to be able to treat customers' gardens as well. And so if someone wants compost tea, it's out of a truck that's never had herbicide. I know it's clean. And so there'd be 0 chance residual. And so we can do their property, but then we could also spray their garden if they wanted to. And so I don't think we'll sell it or use it, but I think it's great. I think it's like, what's more important is building a foundation. And if we could inoculate it and add more biology and help things out, I think it's going to help.
Absolutely.
So we're moving away from doing mechanical aeration, and we converted those customers to our compost tea because we believe that biology is going to be a better long-term result than aeration. I mean, you pound holes in the ground and a year later, you're back to where you were.
Yeah.
And so I think one day we will go back to aeration, but we're going to do it as a lawn restoration. So we're going to come in and we'll aerate and then top dress your lawn. So we're changing soil structure, not just pounding holes and leaving.
Yep.
But that's a whole process, and we first need to validate if we can charge enough for the service the customer wants it that's going to pay for doing it the right way. Otherwise, we don't want to do it.
So is it tough to market that, or is it a pretty easy sell?
No, most customers want it. And so when you call our office, we say, you're calling because you have weeds. We have 2 lawn care programs. Let me tell you about the one that I'm most excited about. And we talk about the one we're most excited about. And then usually people say, that sounds great. That's what I want.
I love
and
that.
And then
I haven't talked about price at that point.
No, because
Get them
that's
on
what
the
you
book,
want.
and that's here's our offerings, and this is what we really love.
And it is what you want. And like, we'll give you, if you have a commercial property and you don't care, you can be on a traditional program,
Yeah.
which is still, it has slow release fertilizer. It's still it's a premium traditional program. And yeah, your lawn might cost $4 more than a low cost provider, but you get our team. You're not getting the high school kid that just got hired at True Green that never got trained. You know,
That's
you're getting what you want. And that's,
Yep.
to me, I'd pay $4 more all day for that. And so, and then you can step up to our blended organic, which is a 20% premium because it has more costs associated with it, and it's better. And it's like, not just is it better because you're getting organics in it, but you get premium products that give you long-term results.
Yeah.
And so, and then if they align with that and they want to be signed up, we tell them, you know, a lot of our customers opt to be on our compost tea application. Would you like to hear more about that or be on it? And then they can talk more about that. And so we're doing that, which is even cool now. Now we're going to use our tree trucks in the summer when they're not being used as much for doing fertilizing in spring and fall and doing some disease issues. Now I can keep that truck busy year round, and now I can treat gardens with it because I don't have a herbicide in it, which is awesome. So
is that an offering you have right now, the garden treatment, or that's coming?
We're going to do it this year.
Okay.
So I think we have $100,000 in compost 2 sales so far.
That's awesome.
So the extractor is getting a frame built for it right now. It should be done this week. And I have a friend that does this on his ranch. So we're gonna try to make some test batches and get them sent out and get biology tested, but that's our plan. So we gotta be out doing that. Our plan is to be doing that. When we come back from 4th of July, we're gonna implement that.
Have we talked about who I like for testing? I think we have, haven't we?
We should talk more about it though.
Okay.
I've been like kicking the can down the road, but we need to get going on it.
I've got a good resource for that. And we've done some testing with them. I really like what they do.
Cool. That'd be super helpful.
Cool. Let's see. Man, you've done a good job without my bullet points. You've done a good job of kind of covering what I wanted to cover already. So describe for people that aren't familiar with where you are. So what are some of, I know obviously you're doing some track residences and things like that, but what are some of the more notable properties? I mean, there's a lot of money in that valley. You know, what kind of property values, just to know how serious your employees need to be when they roll onto a property. I've been around there enough to know that there's a pretty high concentration of wealth.
Yes, similar to Coeur d'Alene, we have a lot of those like out of town cool properties, which are fun for customers to go to. I mean, people have these beautiful, like we have one we take care of that they planted like 1,800 trees. Like the guy bought farmland that has 3 rivers going through it and had this company come through and like restore all the trout streams. And so that wasn't cheap.
No.
And so, but it's cool to get like a lot of our employees also like, everyone here likes being outside. A lot of them like to fish. And it's like, you know, what's cool is you get to go and appreciate this property, but it's also like, this is why we're doing things the way we're doing it. We want to take care of this stuff. We don't want to go, you know, if there's certain disease issues, we got to go and spray a tree for something, that's fine. But it's like, we want to be keeping this out of waterways. You know, we try to hitting things on target with what we want to be doing. We don't want to be just willy-nilly going and doing anything because everything flows downstream and we're at the top.
Yep.
So,
yep.
But there are a ton of these cool properties, and honestly, we need to do a better job of getting out and doing them. Like we've grown a good foothold in the in-town stuff. We started by doing a lot of door hangers. We're getting out doing more of them now because they work. You know, we get on mailers. We should have 10,000 mailers dropping today, which we hit every door in town we want. I mean, we can't do more because our location's small, and so 10,000 is the only doors that I have in my marketing database that I want. Otherwise, we'd mail more, and so those are going to hit today, and then we're going to go out and start doing more door hangers because the mailers we get like 0.75% return on them. The door hangers we get 2 to 2.5%.
Really?
And when I had this guy doing it the first year who was helping me on the phones when we were first getting started, he's awesome. He would go and do them. He got 5% because he said hi to everyone.
That's
and
awesome.
So, yeah. And so this is something we've been talking about doing more of because It just works. And so
Yeah.
you're getting 2.5%, 2%. We can pay. We were talking about doing it with the cross country team. He was the assistant coach. And so one year, the first year, we paid some kids to go put out door hangers. They got to run anyway. So if they got to run, they'd rather get paid to run. And then the second year we did as a donation. We donated something like $4,000 to the school. And I think we could have done a lot better with it. We weren't as organized about it. So I want to go back to that sometime soon, but I want to be more methodical about how we do it. And so I just haven't, I don't want to half-ass it. If we're going to do it again, I want to do it well.
Right.
And I think that's a repeatable program. We can go to Coeur d'Alene and I can go meet with the cross country coach. Like, hey, in Bozeman, we've been donating $10,000 a year and doing this program.
Yep.
And I way rather the money go to the school than go to Google. And so if we can have this money going to the school and we can help grow their program, that's awesome, you know? And then it makes an impact on them and it makes an impact on the community. Like, that's just a better way to do it.
You know, and that's so transferable to any part of this industry. I think that's a great take home. All right, so I'm looking at the clock and I gotta get to the next thing. We've talked about technology that you're utilizing, especially on your mixing station, and it's something that we haven't seen in golf. But when you're doing that kind of production and that many vehicles rolling out every day, talk about what you've been utilizing the last couple of years as far as some of that, the computerized mixing, and give just a brief overview of how that works and how it's paid you back, because I'm sure there's an investment in that infrastructure.
And the fun thing for me is making things more efficient. Like, that's what I enjoy. And so it's like when a tech comes back from the day, we have gas on site. So you can come in, you back up, fill up your gas, and then you can back into the shop bay. We have a 1-bay filling right now. And so you back in. Every truck has 2 backpacks. One is for spot spraying weeds for the selective herbicide. And then we have another backpack that's a different style backpack that's marked with red tape that has glyphosate in it. And we have these little stations that basically we have pre-mixed product in it. So they can come in, flip the pump on, and just top off their backpack so they don't have to mix anything. They have product in the truck. If they ever had to mix out in the field, they could, but they shouldn't have to.
Sure.
And so they can just top those off with fresh product every day. And then at the end of the week, we dump them and remix them. So they get used up. And they're buffered. We have high pH water, so you want to get them buffered so they last longer. But then they're getting product that way. And then they get to back in, and we have pre-mixed tanks that we just mix every day. And then, so it's all Durametered, it's all Venturi based. We had chemical container company set everything up, which has been good. I mean, everything has drawbacks. I think they built too small of a system against my persuasion to build me a system that'll support 20 trucks. I think they knew that I had 2, and they built me one that will support a couple more than 2. And then we've been kind of fighting to upgrade it over the years. But it's from day one. You don't have to mix anything. Like, when I took this over, we were filling from a tote with a little pump. You'd flip it on and it would pump into a 5-gallon bucket, and it was 3 buckets. Does the tank. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And so I was like, all right, we're not doing.
How many places I see that on the golf side of things. And
I was like, we're not doing. Yeah.
I click my heels. I want to give the superintendent a hug when I see a 1,200 gallon mix tank in the yard, so that they don't have to be messing around with all that. But they're still transferring buckets. So
just like,
that's all me.
And it worked. Yeah, and it worked great for him. But then you're like, oh, geez. And so then our first year, I was like, I don't want to do this. So they make Durameter pumps that can hang on a shuttle. They're like $1,200. And so the first year we did that, where you can set them to what you want. So we had shuttles of herbicide and shuttles of fertilizer, and you just click it to, I need 60 gallons of fertilizer. And you'd put the thing in, we'd clamp it inside the tank so it doesn't fall out, and then you'd hit go, and it would pump in 60 gallons of fertilizer. And then we'd bottom fill the water in while it's doing it, and so then it would get mixed. And then we'd pump in the herbicide, and then we just hand mix the surfactant, which worked well for doing that. And then the next year, you're like, okay, this already saved so much effort. If we're going to grow into this, let's just do it now. And so I think all in now, we're up to like 50 grand on our filling system.
Okay.
But I bought it. I put debt on it. We put 7-year terms. Like I don't love debt. Like we try to stay away from debt if we can.
Right.
But you're like, okay, this is going to be investment. Going to save us time, and so it's going to save me more than X. I mean, in the beginning we bought it was like $35,000. So I forget my math was exactly, but it was like this is actually going to save me money every year, and it's going to reduce mistakes and make everything easier for staff. And so rather than being like, oh, let's wait till we can afford it, this is literally going to save us money right now and make our lives easier. And so on the fill system, the water comes in from a water tank. We have two 3,000-gallon tanks of like a base mix, like a 17.25, and then we have a slow release Ensure 3,000-gallon tank. And so now we can meter it ourselves rather than we used to buy it with 30% Ensure. And so now when it gets hotter, we can give a better product and get more slow release in there. And so we go up to 70% or 65% slow. And so we have fill charts. And so you go up to the meters. Last year we had 4 meters, and we'd have iron micronutrient liquid. We have our base mix liquid, our Ensure liquid, and then our herbicide, and all in totes. And you just click the meters down to what you want, and it just fills in. So I go, okay, I'm going to make a 2,000-gallon batch, and I can hit go on all these. They fill in. And then there's an inductor bowl, and in there we'd measure out our drift retardant and our surfactant, and that went in there. And then it pulled everything in. And last year we were adding organics on top of our traditional mix. And then we're just doing that separate with those little Durameter pumps that hang on the shuttles. We're buying stuff in shuttles. And so we would make our mix, we'd pump it in, and then we'd do that. So now it mixes into a 3,000-gallon tank. And then I have a separate pump that runs off of that agitates it. It's a 5-horse electric pump. So I think it pumps like 130 gallons a minute. And so the technician needs 300 gallons. Their truck is full in 2 minutes. So they just come over there. The pump's always, when they're filling in the afternoon, the pump's always running.
Yeah.
And they just put the dry lock valve on, which when you open those, they drop like 2 drops. So we leave a piece of cardboard on the floor, and they just drop the 2 drops when you pull it off. And then the next truck backs in and hooks up and fills up. And so we mix it every day, and they're just good to go. All they have to do is hook it up and open the valve, which is awesome. And so then it just saves so much time and energy. Like the first year we were out there, and you'd spend 40 minutes mixing your truck.
Right. Times 20 or times whatever, however many are rolling. Yeah.
Even times the 3 we had the first year, you're like, this is stupid.
Yeah.
And so now I just walk downstairs before lunch and hit go, and the whole thing fills to what I need. And then as they come back, they just fill their trucks.
At the end of the
day. We went from 40 at the end of the day. Yeah. Okay. Because with the same thing, you get a bottleneck. So I would love to fill in the morning so you don't have herbicides sitting overnight.
Yeah.
We buffer the water, so it's fine, but we've talked about this, but I want to get an RO system, so it's less of an issue. Yeah. But they fill at night because they stagger in. Not everyone comes back at the same time.
Right.
And so in the morning, everyone's here. And that's the same thing we've had to adjust as we grow. Like we only have 1 bathroom in here. So people want to change in the morning, it's too much. And so now they take their clothes home and they come to work dressed.
Sure.
And they can change at the end of the day when they stagger in, but there's too many people in the way now. So everyone has to fill in the afternoon.
Well, time is money. And I think, again, I don't care what sector of the industry we're in, we're all so busy that we're typically reacting, but you're taking the time to put systems in place that, whether you're a one-man band or you're scaling to a bigger operation, the payback is so quick on all of this stuff. The premix stations you mentioned, we've talked about these production RO systems, and I'm spinning my wheels in golf, but man, some of the water that we're using to mix extremely expensive chemicals or fungicides is so bad that you're not getting the efficacy that you need out of that product. And I'm not giving up on this because I think there's a lot of logic to starting with good water so that you're getting the most out of your products. But then the mixing thing is such a slam dunk that seems to be missed a lot of times.
On that, just step back one before I go on with what you're just saying now and two, it's not just, okay, it costs my employee 45 minutes a day. It's the opportunity cost. That guy could have done 3 more lawns.
Yep.
And so it's not that I paid them to stand around. I wasted $20 in labor. I missed out on $150 in revenue or $200 in revenue.
Right.
And so it's huge.
Yep.
And so if you do that every day, and that's something we talk about too, is, I've talked to people who they move their shops out of town because they can get a better deal on property.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like,
but
do you know how much 15 minutes a day each way per truck costs you? Like,
gas,
you could have bought a building that
labor, and all that stuff,
yeah.
right?
And then you put a 30-year note on a building, like you could have paid twice as much money for the property and save money.
Yeah.
I mean, we looked at that. If we were going to move out of town more, we would lose, like, if it was 15 minutes a day a truck at the size we were, it'd be like $6,000 a month.
Right.
Just in loss.
Yeah, but unfortunately, not a lot of people, and I don't care what part of the business we're in, not a lot of people are approaching it first from the financial aspect and second from the the practical and the operations side, and I think that gives you a huge advantage.
And not that we don't want to own a building and build a building and everyone's like, you should own real estate and do this, but it's okay. If we go and build, the only one we're going to build one we can, like, that we want, that we can afford, you go build one out of town like everyone does, and yeah, you save money, but you actually wasted more money. You could have put that money into the business or into the market or bought a boat, and you would have been better off with the money. But it's like, I think it comes down like a pride thing, and it's hard to get over that. But it's like,
yeah,
if the money gets spent making money, then it's making money.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And back to your RO thing too. It's like, I hate that we don't have an RO system, because, and a lot of people don't even like it. I didn't know this for a while, but it's like insecticides, they can go bad in a day.
Right.
And so we're going and spraying. The truck goes out and sprays $4,000 in trees. And if you didn't do your job right, you're not doing right to your customer.
Right.
And so, like, we buffer the water, and I hate that they mix the tree stuff out in the field, but I don't want them. The tree trucks have multiple tanks in them, and I don't have them mix the next tank until they're done with the first one, and they might have different products, but I want them buffered, and I want them to run out today, or go as low as they can. So I don't want old product going to customers' houses that are paying for a premium service.
Yeah.
Like, that's not good. And so it's like you were saying, a golf course could spend $100,000 on products and not spend $5,000 RO system. And I'm in the same boat. If I don't have the RO system, we spent $200,000 in products last year. You're like,
right.
Is the herbicide working as good as it could have because it broke down over time?
Well, I wouldn't have found this operation that we've talked about if it hadn't have been for my position on the Soil Water Conservation District. But the Spokane County District has been, they purchased one of these units and put it on a trailer for all of their farm operators. And you and I have talked about this, but these guys are reporting, and this probably is why it's not out there. These guys are reporting a 50% reduction in both chemical and fertilizer inputs. I'm sure that's why it's not gaining more traction, because it's less sales, I think, at the end of the day. But for me, I want all of my customers and clients to be as efficient with everything, whether it's inputs or labor or what have you. And I think some of the stuff that you're trying to implement is going to be a real good model for how to do things in the future. So.
And using less higher quality ingredients is better. So if you can use less stuff that works better,
right?
And like, it even goes back to the whole glyphosate thing. There isn't a great replacement for glyphosate, but we use the least amount possible.
Right.
And so it's like, you can use pre-emerge as you get around it. Like, same with herbicides. I think all the attention on glyphosate, but all this stuff, I want to use the least amount of chemicals possible.
Yep.
But we got to make our lawn look green. And so, like you said, if they work better, we don't have to use as much.
Yep.
Perfect. Everyone wins.
That's right.
Aside from the cost part of it, it's like, you gotta just put less stuff down.
Yep. Well, gosh, there's some great little nuggets. I think I don't care who's listening. I think there's some things, hiring, any little secrets people can get for hiring right now is money in the bank, so to speak. And I think you've come up with some pretty innovative ways to not only to include your staff in the buy-in, but make your advertising more directed and more effective in the process. And I commend you for bringing them into the process as well, so that they feel like they're part of it. And that, like you said, that transfers to retention, that transfers to they're your advertisement in the field. So it's definitely important for them to be bought in, so that when they're talking to your customers, they've got a comfort level with whoever they run across from yard guard, and that's that's important for resale the next year.
Yeah.
So we're at an hour. I didn't get through everything that I wanted to, but we may have to have you back on, because I think I don't get to talk to a lot of people on your side of the business, but your innovation and I think your approach to the business from a business perspective is something that's really important. And I had a longtime friend of mine on last week who was an educator, and she made the point, and I was thinking about this as you were talking. She said, I think we need to look outside of the turf industry to draw good people, and look more to the tech world, or people that are more computer savvy, or people like yourself that have a financial background, because the turf can be learned, but the other stuff is so critically important. I think you really underscored that example that she made, and I didn't think it would would surface quite that quickly, but it's a really good example of how you can grow and scale and be profitable as you do it, if you approach it from a pragmatic and a business standpoint. So I commend
And running a business is scary. Like, you're like, okay, you need to be an expert in HR. You got to know finance. You got to know accounting. You got to know your product. You got to know people management.
Yep.
And like, you're just trying to learn all these things as fast as you can. And screwing up any of them could put you out of business.
Right.
And so like, you gotta learn all these things all at once. And so it's finally getting nice that we have more people now, that like everyone's like adding more, and like now it's all helping, but it's so hard.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think you probably agree that you've got a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. And I've got a friend who's made a lot of money in entrepreneurial ventures, and I'm sure he stole it from somebody else, but he always said, I'll make 10 decisions in the time it takes most people to make 2 or 3. Even if I miss a couple, I'm still way ahead of you. And sometimes that risk really pays off. I see it with all of those people that are wired that way, that they don't let failure get in the way of success.
And it's all calculated risk. It's like you're trying it because you want to make it better.
Right.
And you just like, we learned for everyone else. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't think about lawn care, but if I can go and visit companies that are where we hope to be in a couple of years, I get to learn the mistakes they already made. Yep. And that's how we learn everything. Like, this winter we visited 8 companies, and I would welcome anyone to come here anytime. Like, that's how I learn, because right. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. It's too bad that no one can teach me exactly how to do the stuff that we're trying to figure out with like you and the EarthWorks and like products. But it's like, I think we're going to start making those connections and figuring that out. But in terms of like operations and things, like, I feel like everyone's always welcoming, and we're welcoming to anyone. It's like, you all teach each other. Like, yep. You can only figure so much out on your own, bouncing around the dark. It's like, if you can go and meet people and learn.
It's important to network and talk with your peers if they're willing to share. And I think that's another thing that generationally I'm seeing a little bit of a shift with younger golf course superintendents. They're not as involved maybe with their local activity, and that's a piece that they're going to miss at some point. I think I'd like to see them more involved. So we're going to wrap up. Colin Engstrom with Yard Guard. I really appreciate your time. This was awesome. I think there's some things that some take homes that anybody in the turf industry can benefit from. So I thank you for your innovation and your time. And if you stick around for a minute, I'll wrap things up. But thanks again for listening, everybody. Hopefully you get a few things out of this, and I think you will. I know hiring is the toughest thing right now, and Colin definitely came up with some good ideas, and maybe they can transfer to what you're trying to do in your operations. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you again soon.